What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on D's analysis. We're going to be looking at MSTR and Bitcoin today, going over some indicators and different charts. So as we can see, still in the same position as we were when you take a look back here on May 27th and on May 19th. You can see we're in the exact same position. We got our weekly close at 369.70. So we're sitting at the bottom of this range that we have here. The entire range is really from here to here, at least in this upper level here. And we are still holding above the bottom of the range, which is okay. And we are still finding that rejection from this golden zone that we continuously speak about. So with this golden zone, it's been acting as a lot of resistance right here, and we've just been pushing down consistently. So we had our close inside of it and we pushed outside, retested it multiple times, and now we push back down off of it again. With the zone being this filled with resistance, so once we break it, I think we could get a nice little, at least temporary jump up in price. But of course, that's once we hit, above 426 and we get a daily close or a weekly close, ideally. But now we have to open up to the idea of falling underneath this level, as we have really closed very close to it. So if we were to fall underneath it, ideally, we would want to retest this zone and push back in. But once we break and hold underneath this zone here, the more likely scenario would be closing underneath this zone here and retesting this zone and this trend line, finding resistance and continuing down. That would be the more likely scenario in this case, but hopefully not. But we have to be open to that idea now that we are approaching the bottom of this range. And when you take a look to the left, if you're not looking at this upward sloping channel, just on a horizontal perspective, you can see you have a clean move from the break of 353 all the way down to about 320 to about 310. You should have a clean move down. Obviously, we can find support along the way just in terms of this candle here. Another low volume day. We're just trending sideways. Nothing's really going on, as you can see. Just no volume at all. When you compare it to these larger days right here, you can see these are days of full volume. We're not even a tenth of that, as you can see here on this candle. And in terms of percentage moves, was a 25% move from the bottom of the wick to the top of the wick. From the bottom to the top of this wick was 2.8%. So as you can see, we are really not moving anywhere at all. But like I said, that's expected as Bitcoin is trending sideways or falling. MSTR is not going to go anywhere. On the weekly SMAs, you can see we're still holding well above our SMA, but the SMA is slowly starting to catch up as it's starting to rise and the price is starting to fall. So maybe we come into contact and that's where we find our support. We'll find out, of course. And here on the daily SMAs, you can see we did close underneath our 50-day, which is not a good sign. We definitely want to get it closed back above, get a bounce, and push up to the golden zone again. We also are actually starting to form somewhat of a potential bottoming pattern, a double bottom right here. We'll see if it plays out, of course. Ideally, that's what we want to see, but it could really just be another leg down. It could really be this right here. And then we take this measured move, and then we take this measured move right here, and that takes us to the bottom of this channel and to the gray trend line. We could also see both of those playing out. So this could be a bear flag being played out, or this could potentially be a double bottom forming. And on the 4-hour, we have a lot of resistance at the 20 and the 50 above our head. Now, when you take a look at the weekly EMA, you can see we actually close underneath our 8-week EMA, which is not a good sign, at least temporarily, short term. As you can see, sizable moves to the downside. Nothing too crazy, but it is a decent sized move, as you can see here. I'll try and zoom that in. So we fell underneath it there, fell underneath it here, and we were already holding it here. We went back above, and then we fell underneath it here as well. And we're just going to go over how big those drops were from the actual close, or from where we actually surpassed the EMA. You can see that was a 17% drop on that one, For this one, it was a drop all the way down to this candle, which was a 34% drop. And then on this one here, from the EMA, it was a 22% drop. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but just want you to know what happens historically, at least in the near term of what recently happened. As we close underneath our EMA, of course, we can get a green candle that flips this thing right back up. So that's always a possibility. I just want you to see what happened the last 3 times that we closed underneath the EMA. They were pretty sizable drops. On the weekly RSI, we are losing our support of that yellow moving average, and we are falling underneath it. So that is going to open up the idea of us going lower there. As you can see, if we were to draw this out, this could potentially start a trend like that to the downside. But of course, we'll see. On the daily, we've actually touched the bottom. So we'll see if this ends up being a double bottom or if this is a bear flag. So we are at that point where it has to make a decision. This is either going to be a double bottom and we start continuing up and start seeing some strength on the daily, or this ends up being somewhat of that bear flag that we spoke about, where it's the flagpole, you have your flag, and then if we break down, then it could be to much lower levels. And on the 4 hour, it's practically the same thing, but we are starting to curl up a little bit and pushing towards the yellow moving average. On the MACD, we were starting to flip green. We lost our momentum, and now we have a red flip. And the blue is falling back underneath the orange, which is not a good sign here on the weekly. And remember, these candles take weeks to play out, so it takes some time. So to get a flip, it could take a couple of weeks to get that flip back above and pushing up higher. Here on the daily, we are continuing a trend to the downside, not looking the best. As you can see, pretty obvious trend right there. And we're starting to see a little pickup in momentum to the downside, not by much, but it is starting to increase. And here on the 4 hour, also bearish as well. We started to push back up, bullish into bullish territory. We pushed past the dotted line, and now we got a red flip. The blue fell underneath the orange, and we are starting to pick up momentum to the downside. Even though it wasn't the best day for MSTR, it still outperformed Bitcoin. And we can see that here on MSTR divided by IBIT. For the day at least, you can see it outperformed by almost 0.7%. So nothing too big, but at least on a bad day, MSTR did better than Bitcoin. When we look at Bitcoin, you can see we are still with our bull flag being formed. This looks like a normal part of a bull flag, as you would imagine, from your flagpole, staying range bound, but price is slowly compressing before it finally breaks out. So this is nothing out of the ordinary. Could be more of a bull pennant, I guess. Bull pennant or bull flag, we'll find out, of course, with time. But we are range bound. We're still hanging out within this range here of 109 to 102, just chopping sideways. Eventually, we will break out, hopefully to the upside and not to the downside. If we do to the downside, like I already said, 100,350. Once we lose that, we can see much lower prices. Ideally, we push up to the top, break this downward sloping trend line, break the top of this range here, and push up higher and get that retest to break 112. And then hopefully we can see the top of this upward sloping channel or trend line. And that would coincide with, a price of about 117 to about 120, which you can see here on this upward sloping trend line. But once price breaks this upward sloping trend line, it's going to be completely price discovery. We have really no idea of where it's going to find resistance. It can keep going as much as it wants, or it can fake us out, come right back. The biggest thing we'll be using are Fibonacci levels to try and find where we could find resistance. But even then, during price discovery, it's tough to find out where price can find resistance along the way up. And a big part to our recent fall on Bitcoin is Tether Dominance. So we were getting a lot of resistance at this level, but now we just recently broke this wick right here. And we're finding a little bit of resistance, but hopefully we don't close above this wick at 4.98. If we do, now that opens up the idea of getting a close, retesting this horizontal zone, and then pushing up higher. But as you can see, we did draw it out previously. We were testing these levels and then we broke out, retested, and we're pushing up higher now. So hopefully it's a fake out and we fall back into the range and then eventually break the bottom. But as of now, it's looking like a pretty solid breakout. But we'll see. We still have 2 days. We have 1 hour left for the daily and we have 2 days left for the weekly. So of course the weekly close will be a more confirmed idea of what could happen. And like I said, we don't want to see a close within these wicks here at 4.98 or higher. We'd rather see a close back underneath that level and ideally below this wick at 4.98. But once we get a push back down below, we will eventually start to rally again on Bitcoin. But for the time being, until Tether Dominance drops, Bitcoin will not be going up because they are inversely correlated, as we all know. And we can put that on the chart here really quick just to see the difference. You can see that trajectory downward, and then you can see that trajectory upward on Tether Dominance. That's all I have for you guys here on this video. Like and subscribe, share with a friend, drop a comment, and let me know what you guys think about this. Where do you think price is going? And I'll see you guys in the next one.